So in this video, we're going to spend a bit of time checking out our advanced charts. And to achieve this, we do have to set up a few blocks with different bits of data. But first, I'll just show you the chart and the options. We create a new block. And we go full width. So the chart advanced set 1. The reason why it's called set 1 is because in the future, we will be adding a different range of charts and we won't be able to add them to this because the context of how the data will be loaded will be different. So it's not necessarily a case that set 2 will be an advancement of set 1. It'll be more like a different set of charts, and a different set of charts will load data a different way. So that's where we're getting set 1 from. So in summary, the difference between this and the local chart, pie chart, is that basically, or the local donut chart, sorry, is that basically this is designed to be able to load counts and records of data from external sources, or the same block if you wish. And it's also quite complex, or it's as complex as you want it to be. It can count multiples against multiples, and you can build as many charts in the one single chart, or you maybe just say, for instance, it's a line chart. You can build as many counts from different blocks in the same chart as you want. So as you can imagine, there's quite a lot to it. So we'll just start kind of by digging into it a bit, and we'll come up with the most basic one first, which will be, we'll say, data over time. So when I say data over time, what I really mean is something like a count of something per day. So just pretend this was day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and this could be the count of stuff that maybe items that got received in every day. The only thing about this particular example is I will have to do some pre-made data because we need to have data as if it was added literally over a period of time, and that's not something you can do from this side of Blocworx. It's something that it has to be done from a database level. So what I'll do first though is I'll add some records. So we'll say, let's just say parts received. So we'll say part number and quantity received. So unfortunately, because I've added all this data right now, I wouldn't be able to use this as an example of building a chart. We'll say how many were received every day. So for that reason, I'm going to go to the database and make some changes to this so that we'll have it so that it happened over the last 3 days. So I'm going to pause the video and then I'll refresh. So I've now updated the dates, and as you can see, we have 26, 27, 28. So we're going to go back to the advanced chart set and we'll make our first one. So what we're going to do is count the parts that were received over time. You choose a chart height, and that's in pixels. You don't type in px or anything, just leave it at the numeric. Then we can pick a chart. You can either do it using the select, or you can use it doing the graphical user interface. So we'll do a smooth line chart. Now we'll pick our x-axis. So we're doing it over time. So we're saying, well, we want a timeline, and we're going to say every day. So it's a daily, and that means the x-axis will be basically by each day. And we'll say we want to go from the record started, and we want to go all the way until now. If I didn't select these, you could actually choose another field in the block that allows you to control the date, but we'll leave that just for now. And you can have a button that says, I'll just say load chart. So this is kind of the criteria for the chart. The next one we're going to look at is the legend data. So let's build an item to count, and then I can explain to you when we look at the chart what the legend data is. So we're going to count parts received, select count option. We're going to count the total of numeric, select the remote field that contains the numbers to count. So we're counting the quantity, and then now we're choosing what are the values for the legend. And the legend is the piece at the top of the chart that breaks down the different counts. So now we'll submit this one and we'll test it out. So as you can see, here's the legend. So what we'll do is we'll play with this data a bit. We'll just kind of examine it just for a second just to see, are we happy with that it's all correct. So we'll say on the 28th, part 1, there was 43. So that's 28, and you can see 43, but there was no part 2. 27th had part 1 and part 2. There was 10 part 1 and 34 part 2. That's the 27th. And then, as you can see, for 26th, it was all part 2, 66 of them. And that is basically the most basic form of this chart, but it can go quite deep. So we're going to keep going and just make more and more advanced ones. So now I'm going to do a pie chart. And we'll open it up, it's easier to see. So we'll do this one. We're going to do a date timeline again. So this is a little strange because there is no x-axis on a pie chart. However, it needs to know what the kind of fundamental data it would be counting. So it still has this option. I'm just going to select these for now because that will allow us to just count everything. And we'll just say refresh. And once again, we'll say show legend data by all variations of fields. So we're going to do the same as the last one pretty much. Count total numeric. That's the quantity received. And then choose the item to count for legend. And press submit. Now we go to the front end. And now we have our pie chart and we have our legend here. And this one is still going. So next we'll get a bit more advanced, and what we'll do is go into here and we'll add one more dimension to the data. let's just say received method. So let's just pretend the parts come in different ways. So we'll say by truck, by truck, and we'll do another one, say by van, by truck, by van, and we'll say by post. These don't have too much meaning, to be honest. I just want to categorize and break down stuff just to show you where I'm going now with the charts. So now let's build a third chart. And this time we won't do it over time. We'll do bar chart. So now I'm going to do bar chart. I'll say height 500 again. The x-axis this time is going to be something different. It's going to be how was it received. So by truck, by van, and I just better go back to check out what this was again. By post. And once again, we're going to build the legend data, which is the parts, the same way. So we count the total numeric, and we'll say, what are we counting? We're counting the quantity received. Select the remote access to check the value against. Oh, that's the received method. So we're checking these values against the received method. And then choose the item to count for the legend. That's the part number. So this does take quite a lot of practice, to be honest with you, but it does allow you to achieve quite powerful results. So let's have a look at this one. So now we were able to create our x-axis, which was how it was received, our legend, which is the different things we're counting, and then the y-axis is the value of the things we're counting, the count itself. So now we can see by truck we have part 001, 10, and part 2 is 66, and so on and so forth. The 0 part 2 for by post. So you can also refresh. The page doesn't have to refresh. So if I add one more, we'll say part 002. Oh, wrong one. Part 002 for. I submit this one, and then I refresh this. You can see that popping up there. So there was one slightly complicated thing there, which isn't fully necessary. I just wanted to show you the context first. I'm going to create a new one. It's going to be the same thing. It'll achieve the same thing, but it'll require less maintenance. So second bar chart. So what I showed you the first time was set your own values, and that's where I typed in by truck, by van and stuff. This time you say, well, no, we don't want to do that. Let's just get the values ourselves automatically. And that's what I'm doing here. So it's the received method. So I don't have to type in those ones. And that means if we add a new record in here, the chart will work by itself. This doesn't have to say refresh, by the way. It's most obvious. Again, showing the legend data by all variations of a chosen field. What that means is we're going to load all the variations that are in here, part 1, part 2, whatever. And what are we counting? Parts received, count total of numeric, quantity received, select the remote access or the remote field to check the x-axis. So the x-axis is received method. We're checking it against this. And we're counting for the legend, it's going to be the part number. So as you can see, this gives you the same values. I suppose the order is slightly different because I wrote these in this way and this is loading them in this direction from start to finish. But the difference now is, let's just say we have a new delivery method by hand. I would say part 004, 20. The whole thing becomes like self-sustainable. So now it introduced a new part and it introduced a new delivery method, whereas in this one, I would have had to edit the field to do that. Now, it's worth noting that might be a desired behavior, because the danger of this option is uh, who knows how complex this data could get, and that'll make the chart unmanageable, whereas this one you've total control over it. And the same applies to the actual things you want to count. So we'll do one more. Well, we'll do a few more, but we'll just, in terms of this type of chart, I'll show you one more. So we'll say bar 3. So the x-axis, we're saying we'll just do it the way we were doing it in the last one, but this time we're doing the opposite with the part numbers. So that's fine, the x-axis. This time I'm not clicking this. So by clicking this, it's just saying, well, get all these variations, part 1, 2, and 4. I skipped 3 for some reason, but this time we're not going to click that. And we'll say, so select remote field that contains the numbers to count. Quantity received, select the remote field to check the x-axis again. So it's always just to keep it visually in your head. When you're reading these, you're kind of thinking in your head, well, what's the x-axis? The x-axis is this part, so what's going to be down here? And we're saying, oh yeah, that needs to match the received method. Now there's an option here, load all data. We can try this one first. And then what I'll do is I'll duplicate this and we'll try another one. So now it didn't break down the parts. We just said, well, we don't care about what part numbers, we just want the quantities. And that's the idea of the load all data. But we do want, we'll say, this part, we do want a breakdown of how it was received. So basically, when you're saying load all data, you're kind of saying I don't want any legend. I don't want it broken down any further. But I'll duplicate this field and I'll move it up here. So we'll keep everything in place, but we'll remove the items to count. So this time we're going to decide exactly what the legend is using our own values here instead of dynamically loading them. So the remote field we're counting is part number, and take if you'd like to use permanent value to check. We'll just say part 002. So we'll add 1 for now. So the difference is this time you have to add as many counts as you like to start building up your chart. So now we have part 002. We're only controlling part 002. So even if I start adding more records here, it won't add them here if they're different parts. But let's add one more here so we've more control. So the idea is you can build as many things that you want to count as you wish. So for the legend, we're counting part number, and the permanent value, let's say part 003. So now we've 2 items that we're counting. And don't forget to submit the field overall. And part 003. We don't have any. I'll just add one here because that's why it didn't. So there's our by hand part 003. We'll just add one more by post. And as you can see, it's counting again. So we'll just give a few more examples. Again, it's quite a complex field, and there may be support required on the first few goes of trying it, because there's a few concepts that you have to kind of get your head around before you start to really get into the swing of it. So we just do one more. The part received is good data. We'll say the method received again. We're counting the part number. Give it a name. Oops. So it does figure out itself how it's breaking things down visually based on the chart you've chosen. So as you can imagine, once you understand all the options and all the ways you can break things down, that's when you can start really coming up with your own ideas for it. I'm just going to do one more. So for the final one, I'm going to compare a target versus achieved or something. So let's just say. So it might take me a few minutes to create the data here. I'll just create the fields and create the first one or two records. And then afterwards I can explain. I'll pause and add all of the records and then I can explain what I did. Right, first we'll say a date. So let's just say hypothetically over the space of different days we're looking to compare um, oh no, we'll put in hour actually. So I'm just building up data over a hypothetical day. Target is 40, achieved 38, hour 3, target is 45, achieved 40. And I'm going to pause the video and build more data and we'll come back to the chart then. So I've created a bit more data. So we're just saying hypothetically in a day there's 5 different hours and every hour has a target and every hour is what was achieved. And we want to decide, we want to build a chart to compare these by the day. So I'm going to create a new row and we give this a full screen. So first I'm going to create a date field in my block that I'm trying to create the chart in. Now we create a new row. Say target versus achieved. We give it a bigger height because we were giving it full width screen. And yeah, we're going to pick, this is the most realistic one. Again, the line chart or the simple line chart or the smooth one. So the x-axis, what do we want the x-axis to be? I want that to be the hours. So I'm going to go, let's get the values from another block. And we'll say target versus achieved and the hour. So that's going to split up all the hours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the next is what we're looking to count, which is the achieved. So the hour is the x-axis that we're counting against. So we're going to count the number of achieved per hour. And we're going to count all data. So I shouldn't have ticked this one. So let's just look at the achieved first. We'll submit this. I'm going to open a new window because it could be editing. So as you can see here, over each hour we can see what we've achieved. It's hour 4, we've achieved 105, 84, 83. But the problem is that's not counting by the day. That's just counting all of them for that hour. So what we'll do to overcome that is edit the field. And so you might have seen at the time when I was making that one, I did look up all data, but now we're saying no, we actually want to look up based on the date. Sorry, leave that unticked. That was an accident. I'm in the wrong block completely. Apologies. So instead of clicking look up all that, we're saying, well, it has to equal the remote field date must equal a field called date that I've created there that you saw me. So it's not a permanent value, it's just going to be the date, the value of the date field. So now our date is 28th. Just edit it. Just to make sure I selected the hour field that time. There may be a issue with this. If nothing happens when you click it, I'd be recommending that you contact us. So you should always get some kind of response. If you don't, there might be an issue. So for example, this one isn't saving. This needs to be fixed. So now we go back. It's saving, but it's just not reloading when you edit it, which means when you save it saves nothing. So now we have on the 28th, 29, hour 2, 65, so on and so forth, and that corresponds to this data, not this one. But let's say let's have a look at the 27th. What date did I put in the wrong year, wrong month. So here's the 27th, that was the previous day. Now let's add one more item to count. So that's the achieved. Don't forget you can zoom in and out like that. So that's the achieved. Now I'm going to put in the target. It's just the same thing again, except we're adding a new legend item. So this time we're saying target against the hour. We're not looking up all data. Instead, we are saying the date must be equal to date. And now we have two items to count. And that's how we get to achieve our comparison. So we can see where we're on target at what time, and we change the date to 27th. There must be an issue here because it keeps going back to the previous month. Maybe I'm doing it. I am doing it. I'm clicking on the previous month. Sorry for the confusion. So yeah, that's the 27th. And let's do one final thing. So as you might notice, it might be a bit of a pain pressing the button every time just to see your charts. But just like I showed you with the local donut chart, that field parameter for triggering charts also works for these ones. So I'm going to trigger the charts when we change the date. So that's just a simple field parameter. So the reason they all loaded immediately is because this does trigger the actions. The date field triggers the actions as soon as it loads. So here's all our data. And let's change the date. This time I won't make the same mistake. And as you can see, without me pressing anything more, it changed it. And you can do one more. You can hide the actual buttons because now they're not needed anymore. So it starts looking neater and neater. So I'm changing the date and it's updating the data. It's giving you your breakdown here. So that's the advanced chart set 1. There are a few little more things in that chart. I won't cover them in this video, but we may cover them in the future, in future modules, or we will be looking as well at some little issues around the chart, but overall that gives you enough of a synopsis. All right, thank you, goodbye.